The black mayor of New Bern, Alabama has finally obtained the keys to the city and the ability to serve as mayor, years after he won his election after a white minority in the town cooed him out of the office. Let's jump into last week in Southern labor. So here is what workers in the U.S. South and the American colonies were up to from July 19th to the 26th. The new union campaigns, 400 workers in one bargaining unit are involved in a raid. 334 workers across 8 bargaining units began new union campaigns, and 10 workers in one bargaining unit are in a new decertification election. The United Football Players Association is attempting to raid 400 workers who are football players at the United Football League Enterprises in Arlington, Texas, who are currently represented by the United Steelworkers. Longtime listeners may remember the controversy around this, but to recap in brief, the United Steelworkers organized USFL players, but failed to organize XFL players, but now represent all the players post-merger in the UFL. The USW, the United Steelworkers, did this campaign with the United Football Players Association, which was not a union at the time, and the UFPA feels like they did not understand all of the ramifications of organizing under the auspices of the United Steelworkers as opposed to organizing themselves, and publicly declared some months ago their intention to seek to take over representation from the USW. With this election filing, they are making good on that promise with presumably a minimum of support from 30% of their fellow players. The employer filed a petition after a majority of the workers at Specs Family Partners in Dallas, Texas demonstrated support for unionization with the Teamsters Local 745. 51 workers at the National Alliance of State and Territorial AIDS Directors, NASTAD, in Washington, D.C. filed a petition to hold a union election with the Washington Baltimore News Guild, WBNG CWA Local 32035. 8 workers at American Electric Power in San Angelo, Texas, filed a petition to hold a union election with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, IBEW. 12 workers at Consolidated Waste Services in Fajardo, Puerto Rico, filed a petition to hold a union election with the Central General de Trabajadores. 31 workers at the Kroger Fulfillment Center in Forest Park, Georgia, filed a petition to hold a union election with the Teamsters Local 528. Workers likely pushed by their employer filed a petition to decertify the Communication Workers of America, CWA, as the union representing 10 workers at AT&T Mobility in Houston, Texas. 48 workers at Environmental Air Systems in High Point, North Carolina, filed a petition to hold a union election with the United Association of Plumbers and Pipe Fitters, UA Local 421. 9 workers at Veterans Enterprise Technology Solutions in St. Louis, Missouri, filed a petition to hold a union election with the Laborers International Union of North America, LIUNA, Local 42. 60 workers at Blackfish Federal in St. Louis, Missouri, also filed a petition to hold a union election with LIUNA, Local 42. The employer filed a petition to hold a union election after a majority of the 115 workers at MBM Logistics in Orlando, Florida, demonstrated support for unionization with the Teamsters Local 385. In campaign updates, workers organizing with the Teamsters at Amazon's largest air hub in northern Kentucky went on a one-day strike last week in protest of the company's illegal union busting. This Amazon air hub is just across the street from a recently Teamsters unionized DHL facility, and workers from DHL had been critical in their support of the Amazon campaign.
Hey, 5 seconds, just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
In election results, 96 workers in 6 bargaining units are newly unionized. 172 workers in 5 units voted against unionization, and 1 unit of 33 workers withdrew their union election petition. 18 workers at Starbucks in Roswell, Georgia, voted 12-2 in favor of unionization with the Starbucks Workers United, as did 17 workers at a Starbucks in Alpharetta, Georgia, unanimously. 48 workers at Hendersonville Community Cooperative in Hendersonville, North North Carolina voted 33-8 in favor of unionization with the United Food and Commercial Workers, UFCW, Local 1996. 21 workers at Point Broadband Fiber Holding in Bristol, Virginia, voted 5-16 against unionization with IBEW, Local 934. 7 workers at Southwestern Electric Power Company voted 2-4 against unionization with IBEW, Local 386. 94 workers at Lufkin U.S. Acquisition Company in Claremore, Oklahoma, voted 26-63 against unionization with the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, IAMAW. 7 workers at Sinclair Television in Arlington, Virginia, voted 6-1 in favor of unionization with the National Association of Broadcast Employees and Technicians, NABET, CWA. 2 workers at Jones Lang LaSalle Americas in Washington, D.C. voted 1-0 in favor of unionization with the International Union of Operating Engineers, IUOE, Local 99. 3 workers at Spectrum Management in Washington, D.C. voted 1-1 in a union election with IUOE, Local 99, and ties go to the employer. 63 workers at Emporia Rehabilitation and Health Center in Emporia, Virginia, voted 33-3 in a decertification election to keep Workers United as their union. 4 workers at Valero Refining Company in Memphis, Tennessee, voted unanimously in favor of unionization with the USW, United Steelworkers. 47 workers at Rainbow Blossom in Louisville, Kentucky, voted 15-25 against unionization with UFCW, Local 227. And 31 workers at Sigma Network in Pryor, Oklahoma, withdrew their petition for a union election with LIUNA, Local 107. In settlements, grievances, and unfair labor practices, SpaceX sought and last week won an injunction from a federal court judge in Texas that prevents the NLRB from processing a common unfair labor practice charge against the company on the grounds that the whole structure of the National Labor Relations Board is unconstitutional. As we wait for this case to make it to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals and eventually the Supreme Court, many more employers will likely seek similar injunctions. The NLRB dropped its case before the Fifth Circuit, attempting to defend its new joint employer standard. And in strikes and bargaining updates, the National Education Association, the country's largest union, has now locked out its own union staff for the better part of a month and is threatening to cut off health insurance, something even General Motors did not do during the UAW's 2019 strike. As AT&T's Southeastern contract is set to expire, the union representing many of the company's employees, CWA, put out a report about how poor working conditions are affecting service of AT&T customers. The TVA has signed a landmark agreement with the North America Building Trades Unions to improve working conditions on TVA projects. The International Alliance of Theatrical and Stage Employees, IATSE members, overwhelmingly ratified the new Hollywood Basic and Area Standards Agreement. This covers workers in the South, like Georgia, as well as in Hollywood. Macy Stalker at the American Prospect has a piece highlighting Southern worker organizing at Waffle House with a testimony from one 29-year Waffle House worker and organizer with the Union of Southern Service Workers, saying that she will see her hourly wage increase from $2.92 an hour after 29 years of employment at Waffle House to $8.45 an hour as a result of the union's pressure. More Perfect Union has a feature about a movement of American and Mexican truckers that went on strike last week in Texas, including an interview with from listener and friend of the show, Billy Randall. Austin airport workers, organized with Unite Here Local 23, are taking a strike vote as their current union contract closes in on the August 8th expiration date. A key demand is a $25 an hour minimum wage. In political and legislative updates, the Teamsters have endorsed the Railroad Safety Act of 2024, which, among other things, mandates a 2-person crew on the rails. 7 unions representing approximately half of all U.S. union members have called on the Biden administration to halt all military aid to Israel to force a ceasefire. These unions participated in protests in D.C. as Netanyahu addressed Congress. The black mayor of New Bern, Alabama, has finally obtained the keys to the city and the ability to serve as mayor, years after he won his election, after a white minority in the town cooed him out of the office. Japanese steel company Nippon has hired Mike Pompeo to help complete the purchase of U.S. steel. After Biden dropped out and unions quickly coalesced behind Kamala Harris, with her securing endorsements from AFGE, ATU, IATSE, AFT, NNU, SEIU, NAB2, and the AFL-CIO, among others, the UAW has not endorsed Kamala yet. Despite the swift endorsements, unions are now privately expressing serious concern about some potential VP picks. Mark Kelly of Arizona, for example, has been a longtime opponent of the PRO Act, although he has recently changed his tune. He has also refused to confirm David Wheel to the DOL's Wage and Hour Division and has refused to confirm Julie Su as Secretary of Labor. Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania has been a strong proponent of school privatization and a fierce ally of Israel, refusing to call for a ceasefire and attacking students and union members at the University of Pennsylvania as they protested Israel's assault on Gaza. The top picks from unions are reportedly Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear. In internal union affairs, General President of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, Sean O'Brien, retweeted an article from Senator Josh Hawley saying it is, quote, 100% on point. In this article, Hawley claimed that U.S. companies were increasing profits by outsourcing American jobs to fund transgender surgeries and DEI programs. The president of the Teamsters LGBTQ caucus expressed concerns about this seeming endorsement of homophobia and other, hatred towards gender minorities to Sean O'Brien, causing O'Brien to respond saying in part, quote, I am fully committed to fighting for all Teamsters, regardless of whether they identify politically as a Democrat or Republican, or their gender, ethnicity, race, or sexual orientation. It is certainly regrettable that my retweet caused consternation and confusion among members of the LGBTQ caucus. Please be assured that I will keep advocating for our LGBTQ plus members as I have from day one. And finally, from listener submissions, friend of the show, McKenna Schuler, has begun a newsletter outside of her day job as staff reporter for the Orlando Weekly. This newsletter, Caring Class Revolt, will cover labor in Florida. Subscribe at caringclassrevolt.substack.com. If we missed anything, let us know at tvlr.fm/contact, and we'll include it in the next week's roundup.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.